All right.
Squad.
Okay, I like what you're doing here. Obviously, repping all the WNBA teams. You told us that last time you came on. You're buying all the merch. Thank you for joining us. Seattle might get an NBA team again. That'd be great for the NBA, right, Stack?
That would be awesome. I have family that live in Seattle. A restaurant called Catfish Corner, where all the players been eating at. Used to be on Martin Luther King and Cherry. So Seattle is a great place to have an NBA team. It's great people there. I love the city, and it's good for the NBA.
Okay, so let's talk about Adam Silver talking about expansion. He said Seattle, Vegas. Obviously, everybody was connecting LeBron James, I think, to the Vegas team because he came out and said he wants to own the team that's coming to Vegas. Then he said Mexico City. We are obviously outsiders when it comes to the NBA. Has there always been a talk of a team going to Mexico or another international team being added, or did this just kind of come out of nowhere, Stack?
I think this is my first time hearing it as well, but I'm black skinned. I'm cool with it, bro. I'm cool with it. I grew up with Mexicans all in my neighborhood. That's how I learned to speak Spanish, man. So I'm cool with it because I love being in Mexico. I think it's dope.
Hey, NBA is obviously huge internationally. We all have known about Asia, how popular it is. We've seen the Eastern Europe crowds on how they are growing up. The stars are coming from over there. There's coming a time where there's going to be NBA international and more European games, you think? Is that just kind of how you're all assuming the trajectory of the league is going to go?
Yeah, Pat, I definitely see it where you'll have teams fly overseas and play maybe 2 games, be gone for like a week and a half and come back. You'll definitely start seeing NBA teams across the water. And I think guys are liking that because the talent, as you see now, look at the NBA. How many guys that's won the MVP has been from across the water? You know what I'm saying? You got Jokic, you got Greek Freak, you got all these guys, even Luka. Like, you got all these guys coming from across the water that's dominating, that's basically being close to being faces of the league. So I think it's important that we go out there and build the game across the water.
Roger Goodell saw Taylor Swift show up at a game dating Travis Kelce and went, yes. Adam Silver sees a bunch of countries now being represented in the NBA, and he's thinking the same exact thing, obviously, for expansion of the league. Now, let's talk about the current league. NBA Finals are happening. This Celtics team is this 4 straight? Are they just going to mop the floor with the Mavs? Is that how this is going to go? This team has been projected to be the champion since middle of the season, maybe even the beginning of the season? Yep. Nobody would even talk about them because they're like, well, the Celtics are going to be representing the East. Let's talk about everybody else. Is this going how you thought it was going to go against the Mavs? And what are your expectations as we roll forward here, Steve?
Well, I think I definitely was pulling for Luka and Kyrie, but at the same time, as me and Matt speak about on our show, we understand the level that they're playing against and what they're going against. Boston has been the team that's been there the last couple of years. They've had all the experience. They got the experienced players. They got Jrue Holiday and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They have been teetering that line to championship for the last couple of years. If it's any time for them to win the championship, it's to win it against this inexperienced young Dallas team who can make those shots in the first round, second round, third round. But winning those shots, hitting those shots in the NBA Finals, as I know, is totally different from those other rounds. The level and the attention to detail and every possession counts. It's harder to make those shots. So Boston is in a great position. They have the experience. They have the talent. If they don't close this series, which it should be their series, it's going to be the biggest letdown ever.
Okay, so I love that. I love to hear that. Biggest letdown ever. What a disappointment losing in the NBA Finals. That's kind of how it's been chatted about all year for the Celtics team. Big storyline I'm hearing from everybody else. Jrue Holiday's locking down Kyrie. We actually have some interesting stats here from Hembo. Jrue Holiday has the best plus-minus in a series, currently at plus 26. He also had the best plus-minus in the 2021 Finals. People will forget. And then when Jrue guards Kyrie this series, 51 half-court matchups, Kyrie has 8 points on 10 shots and 1 assist. Is this Jrue Holiday basketball? Is this normal? Or do we think Kyrie finds his level? Why do you think Jrue is having so much success right now, Stack?
Well, I think because Jrue cares about defense. Jrue understands when you play against great players, it's impossible to completely stop them. But what you can do is you can pay attention to detail and stop what they like to do, make them do things different. When I was in San Antonio, especially in the finals and the playoffs, we used to get these scouting report sheets on your locker, and they tell you everything the player likes to do, whether he likes to go right, whether he spins right, all these things. Jrue Holiday is an old school guy. He pays attention to detail. He knows Kyrie's game, and he's just taking the things that Kyrie does well away and making him try to counter and do other things, and it's working for Jrue. You got to salute him.
Hey, we all assumed he would get tired in the Pacers because he was guarding Tyrese, I think, for the full court.
Yeah.
And it was like, Drew's this old ass dude. ain't going to be able to do it. He's getting more energy, it seems like, as he goes. And the way he handles himself publicly, especially with how the media is trying to drive a wedge in the entire Boston Celtics, feels like they got a great locker room over there. Going to need everybody. Go ahead, D-Bud.
Yeah, speaking on Kyrie just a little bit, obviously it was a hostile environment in Boston, but hopefully he can bounce back and play a little better. Dallas definitely going to need those big two, but you kind of mentioned the other guys around those big two. What changes when these guys get back home as opposed to being on the road in that hostile environment? You mentioned being able to hit those shots in the first, second, third round. Finals a whole different ball game, but what changes for those other guys once they're back in their home arena?
Hey, let me ask to give Jrue some props. You are right. The first question, Jrue is handling it perfect, man. He gives respect to the other players. He understands how great they are, but this is competition. I come to win, and I'm going to do my job to win. Second, man, I think for the younger guys, it's easy to make a shot at home. You're at home, you're sleeping in your own bed, you're walking in this arena, you've been playing and all. Everybody's your fan, they're screaming your names. It's easy. But to win championships, you're going to have to win a game on the road. You're going to have to. And some type of way, they're going to have to come back home and defend home court, which is going to be hard because Boston was able to win games on the road, too. You see how they closed out Indiana. So, I'm an Indiana guy, too, Pat. Don't do that to me.
I know. I was there, though, watching stuff.
But Boston is finding it's just their time. It seems like the way they're playing and the way Jalen and Tatum are focused. I think it's just their time. Okay,
Connor's got a question for you.
Yeah, Stack, because there hasn't been like a top performance from any of the big names on the Celtics like Tatum and Brown. You know, game one was a lot of Porzingis. Game two, obviously, Jrue Holiday. Do you think there's a chance that even if the Celtics go on to win, that Luka will win the Finals MVP? Because he is clearly been the best player in this series on both ends of the floor. Do you think that that's a reality here, or do you think that they'll just end up giving it to Tatum because he is Jason Tatum and kind of the face of the Celtics?
Well, if they give the MVP to Luka, I won't watch basketball ever again. Especially if they lose. If they win, that's one thing. But if they lose, I know I would be the most hate. I would hate on basketball for the rest of my life if they do that. The winner, the MVP goes to the best player on the team that wins. Whether it's Tatum, whether it's Brown, hell, whether it's KP. Whether who knows, but all these guys are playing well. You see, they having five to 4 guys every night in double digits and high double digits. So Jrue Holiday's playing the best for me right now. He's really the reason why this team is 2-0 in the series because of his defense and his offense. So anybody can win it, but it definitely has to go to the winning team.
How's the MVP for this normally go? Just for this series or the entire playoff run?
This one, well, they did the Eastern Conference Finals MVP for the first 3 rounds.
Brown,
and you get
right?
and the MVP goes straight for the finals.
I'll be intrigued to see who they do because normally, like in the NFL, those Super Bowl MVPs normally, not all the time, but normally it's to build a legacy. Like, hey, this is going to be talked about whenever they're talking about records and who's a GOAT, who's not a GOAT. They're going to reference this, even if, like when the Colts won the Super Bowl over the Bears. And I think Peyton would even talk about this, like running backs, offense. Like Peyton didn't have his best game in the Super Bowl. Peyton won Super Bowl MVP though, and Peyton was going to win that MVP if we won a Super Bowl anyways, because the rest of the year, like everything that kind of took place. And then when we were in the Super Bowl again in 2009, it was like Joseph Adai was cooking, everybody else was cooking. It's like Peyton's going to win this MVP though. We know because the entire season, this is for a legacy. That means it would be Tatum's kind of, but wouldn't be able. Kind of, it sounds like the conversation in the narrative is almost like, at this point, not going to be easy to do that. Is that how the NBA operates? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be hard there, Pat, because look, Jalen, I think, has the biggest contract in NBA history so far. Tatum's definitely finna break it on his next deal. So I think these guys are neck and neck, and I think you can't just put one of them in that spot already. They both still fighting for that spot, and I think they both can carry the torch together because they look better together. It's going to be harder apart. Once you get to these finals. Once you get to these finals, you see it took them a couple years to get back. I know a lot of people win one time like me and never got back to that position. So these guys got to take advantage of what they're building, try to keep it together and win as many as they can because as Kyrie's seen, once you by yourself, it's 10 times harder.
Co-MVPs.
Exactly.
That would be a very nice one. Now, speaking of the person that's kind of holding it all together and fantastic job, youngest coach to make the finals since 1966. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Stack. Obviously, they still have a little bit of work to do, but do you feel like we're kind of trending towards Joe Mazzulla maybe getting a little bit more respect? Because it seems like all year long, anytime the Celtics would struggle a little bit or lose, they hung it on Joe Mazzulla. Hey, whether it was the adjustments he was making, the rotations, all that kind of stuff. And even in the playoffs right now, like people have been praising Jason Kidd for his adjustments and all that kind of stuff. And we don't really hear much about Mazzulla. Why does it seem like, is it because he's the youngest coach to get here? Like, why do you think that he's kind of been disrespected or just almost an afterthought? And do you think if the Celtics do win the title that Mazzulla's kind of going to get his due respect that he's clearly earned all year long?
Well, people on the outside end don't think he deserved the job. They think he got the job by default because of the Udoka situation. That's what a lot of people think. But players on the inside, players that's been around the game, he gets all the respect in the world. And you get respect by winning, right? He knows the game. He's a respectful coach. He's made a lot of adjustments this postseason just as well as Jay Kidd. But Dallas was the hot team at the time. But now that you see that he has a well-oiled machine and these Boston kids, he got them playing right. And I fell in love with Joe Mazzulla when I saw him. He wants all his players to contest shots, even after the whistle's blown. Nobody gets a shot off. When I seen him run out on the court and contest a shot, that's when I fell in love with this coach, because that shows his intensity, that shows his attention to detail, and that shows how he's locked in just as well as everybody else. If I want my players locked in, I got to be locked in the same way. And everything he's getting right now, he deserves, because they ask him questions about other players, and they try to bait him to say negative things about other players. He never does. He give them their props, but he always focused on what his team has to do, and that's what I respect about Joe Mazzulla.
I'll tell you what, he's setting the tone and the precedent right now on how his press conferences are going to go. Bill Belichick up there in New England, the way he handled his press conferences was must-watch. This guy was must-see to see what he wasn't going to say and how he was going to handle it. Joe Mazzulla, youngest coach to make the finals since 1966, is just like, we ain't playing these games.
Nope.
I'm not doing this shit. And it's like, if he wins, he'll be able to do that
forever.
Rest of his career.
Yeah.
Hey, good on you, Joe.
Keep going, Joe.
That's good work, Joe. That's good work. Let's go to another coaching search that's taking place. Go ahead, Tone.
Yeah, Steven, reportedly Danny Hurley is supposed to make a decision on the Lakers job today. I wanted to ask you, as a veteran in the locker room, does it matter to you if they would hire Danny Hurley or JJ Redick, and who gets more respect in the locker room? Would it be a college coach who just won 2 national titles coming in, or a first-time head coach that was a player in the league in JJ Redick?
Well, it's two sides to that. A college coach, it depends on who he is and what kind of coach he is. Mm-hmm. That determines how he's going to be respected. Because as you see, Rick Pitino tried it; it didn't work, and he's one of the biggest ever. So. I don't know if that will work with college. You talking to now it's getting worse with college, because now you're starting to have athletes that you can't deal with. Once you make them mad, don't play them, they go into another school because they're getting a little money now. Before that, they couldn't do that because they wasn't making no money. Mm-hmm. Just imagine going to the league where you're dealing with guys where the whole team is making more than you. So it's going to be hard for guys to respect these guys. Now, as a player coming in, JJ Redick, you might see some guys saying that as this privilege. This is super privilege. There's a lot of black players that's been in coach programs, that's been assistant coaches for NBA teams from 5 to 8 years. How come they're not getting this opportunity? So some players might say that, but then you got some guys too, like me, that understand both sides of it. JJ is a well-loved guy. We all, even if you didn't play with JJ, you love him. And his knowledge of the game speaks for itself. You can't take anything away from him. So you can look at it both ways. Being on the outside looking in, I don't care either way. But a lot of people will look at it both ways, and that's just the way I had to explain it, because I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and they had different aspects of it. If you win, obviously it all stops. But boy, if you lose, especially in LA, oh my God. Either way here, like if Dan Hurley gets this gig and he goes in LA and they lose, people are going to be like, the guy had a well-oiled machine up there in Connecticut. Just
one after another. And then the whole statement starts coming where it's like, yep, you can't talk to pros the same way you talk to college guys. These are grown-ass men. This isn't guys just trying to figure it out. It's same conversation happens in the NFL whenever it takes place. Yeah. And then JJ Redick, that whole Mind the Game podcast with LeBron James, that's going to be viewed as a little season-long interview with LeBron James, even though they're saying LeBron is not the one making the decision. It's like, you'd be dumb not to ask LeBron James, wouldn't you? If LeBron's available for advice, and he is on the team,
you'd be playing for the guy.
Would you not want to ask? It's a delicate balance because there's only so many guys in the NBA where the NFL is obviously 53. How do you feel about LeBron, where he's at right now, his career and everything like that going forward? What do you think is the next couple years? What do you think it looks like?
However he wants it to look, just how it looked from the beginning. He's dictated everything the way he wanted to look, the way it wanted to go his whole career, and you got to commend him for that. I mean, anytime you can control your career and make sure you control your own narrative and nobody else is, I think he's doing a great job of that. Getting whatever coach that come there, they just got to be ready to deal with the responsibility of being the blame for everything. LeBron has had a couple of coaches. Every time they win, they don't put the blame on the players. They put them on everybody else. I really think that players got to take more responsibility. Darvin Ham's a great coach. He's been around for a long time. He's a great guy we all respect. You can't just throw him out like that because the team didn't perform well. Look what AD was doing in the fourth quarters. So the players got to take the blame. Bron and AD need to take more blame on that team and stop bringing new coaches in just to blame it on a new coach. You can't expect the coach to go out there and play games.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way, and I assume LeBron and them have heard it. Darvin Ham just signed with the Bucks as to be assistant with Doc Rivers. I believe that literally just happened today as we were chit-chatting. So congrats to him getting back on his feet.
Yeah.
I did appreciate him in the interview going, I got star players going 1 for 40. What do you No. Last question here from us. We can't thank you enough for your time. All the Smoke podcast alongside Matt Barnes. Banger. Would recommend all the time. Connor's got a question for you.
Yeah, Stack, I know you finished your career or played later on for the Clippers. Have you seen any of the clipped show? And if you haven't, have you seen any of the clips that have made it to Twitter? Because there is one of Doc Rivers just eviscerating the entire team. I wasn't sure if that was as accurate as what it was portrayed as.
Well, I was on the Mavericks team, and I got cut when Chris Paul broke his hand, and that's why I didn't stay on the team long. But I did a song in the video called "America the Beautiful" with Scarface about it, and that's really why I never got picked up by another NBA team because I publicly spoke about Donald Sterling and his nonsense. But I didn't. When I was there for that short time, Doc Rivers was super respectful. I didn't hear none of that, him talking to nobody like that, and if it was jokes. It was back and forth, joning how we do as amongst friends. It was never to the point where it was being disrespected. So maybe I wasn't there long enough, but I've never seen that in Doc Rivers. He was always a stand-up guy. I can't stand his son, but I love Doc Rivers as a person.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw your answer there saying, I'm not going to be commenting on anything that Austin Rivers is a part of.
Nope.
Stack, we appreciate the hell out of you, man. Keep going, and thank you for stopping by on this glorious Monday, pal.
Man, anytime for you, Pat. Anytime you call, I'm coming, bro. Shout out to the gang, too, man. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, you too, ladies and gentlemen. Steven Jackson. Thank you, man. Yeah.